Record. Good morning, Dick Wagner here with the Crest Network and Crest Library. I want to welcome you. We haven't had a webinar in about 3 weeks. Part of it was being sick, and part of it was that we took a 2-week vacation, one of those rare things that we do. So although this isn't technically the week that we normally do a webinar, we do them every other week. Since I missed last week while I was cruising around the United States, I thought that I would jump in and do one this morning. This particular one is entitled How to Be Client Focused. It covers a lot of different things. If I can get this to move forward. One of the things that I've learned over the years is that marketers need to evolve and approach the client or the prospect in a different way than they used to, the way that they used to call on them, the way they used to do business. You've got to stop focusing on selling points and functionality of what you're offering and start offering things that diversify your approach so that it's different. You've got to make it personal. It's really, so many people try to do it clinically, and you can't do it clinically because relationships aren't built on things that are clinical. You've got to make it personal. You've got to make what you're talking about personal, and you've got to make your interaction personal. Being client-focused means acting like the owner of your client's business. They care. It matters to them. What would you do if you were the CEO or the president of the organization that you were calling on, that you were trying to do business with? That's the real trick here. Think or put yourself in the frame or mind or in the shoes of the CEO or the president or the manager of the person, the company that you're calling on. That matters. That makes a big difference in whether you're going to make it personal. The value of you being fanatically focused on your client's business in a way that most other reps are not, is that you get credibility. The value you get when you fanatically focus on that client, on their business, is that it elevates your credibility. They think, holy crap, this person, this marketer, this salesperson, whatever, they really care. They really are knowledgeable. They're really credible. And you've got to talk to them like they're a friend. I don't mean that you're going to be friends with them. They're not out there. They're not coming to work every day crying and hoping, and they're not waking up, getting out of bed and heading to brush their teeth saying, oh my gosh, I hope when I go to work today that I'll make some more friends. Nobody thinks that. So if you as a marketer are thinking, geez, I'm going to go try to make some more friends today, that's just bogus. Nobody wants to make more friends. Hey, it's nice if it happens, but that's not our primary concern. But we do have to talk with them like they are friends. because that's making it personal, and you have to make it personal. Putting clients, prospects, at the heart of everything you do as a marketer or a salesperson puts you in a far better position to build a legitimate relationship. I've said this 1,000 times. It's all about relationships. If you don't have a relationship, if you can't build a relationship, you got an issue. You're in the wrong business. If you're trying to be a marketer and you can't build relationships, either you better learn how or you better get out of the business, because eventually you're going to get canned from the position. Because without relationships, you're not going to get jobs or referrals. And if you're not going to get referrals, your boss doesn't have any reason to keep paying a paycheck to you. Remember that in helping your clients and your prospects achieve their goals, you increase their satisfaction. And when you increase their satisfaction, they automatically tend to want to do business with you. In the following 12 slides, I've listed 12 ways that you can put your client first. I hope you're making notes, because I'm going to move fast through these 12 examples, and many of them are really different, revolutionary, unusual. Number one, this is hard for a marketer to do. Let the client fill in the empty spaces of a conversation. As a marketer, we tend to want to talk and talk and talk and talk and fill in the gaps and over talk and use filler words and filler phrases and make statements that are inconsequential. They're meaningless. Don't do that. Shut up. Let the client fill in the empty spaces. And when the client is talking, number one, they're going to feel good about themselves. Number two, you're going to learn something about them that will be valuable in helping them conduct their business. Number two, ask the client to talk about their issues and their concerns. We all need to talk about our issues and our concerns. Sometimes sitting on the couch in the evening, I'll talk to my wife about issues and concerns. I just recently talked to a business owner yesterday, and I talked about his issues and concerns, and that matters to them. It makes them feel better. It helps get something off their chest. It gives them sometimes more clarity. And I'll add in here, if they're not asking for advice, don't give the advice. You've got to have them want the advice. Otherwise, it's meaningless for you to give that advice. And always ask open-ended questions. If you say, did you have a good weekend? They can answer either yes or no. Done. End of questions. End of conversation. There's nowhere else to go with that other than come up with something else. But when you ask an open-ended question such as, what did you do this weekend? That gives them the opportunity to give you information. It gives them opportunities to talk about whatever they want to talk about, whatever your question is related to. And number 4, I just mentioned this. Give advice only after you've earned it. It drives me up a wall when a marketer will go in there, ask 2 or 3 questions of their client or their prospect, and they are immediately thinking they've got to give some advice. They've got to give an answer. They've got to provide a solution. They're the end all be all to providing a solution. You can't give advice unless you've earned the right to give that advice. Otherwise, it like just goes into the chasm. It's dead air. It's meaningless to the prospect. And then, and this is a little bit trickier, focus on the problem, not on the solution. I just said so many marketers try to offer a solution too quickly. Many times you need to explore the problem with the client ad nauseum. I mean, every which way but Sunday, to find out exactly what the real problem is, because so many times the prospect or client isn't going to tell you what the real problem is, at least initially. Many times they'll give you a problem, but it's not the real problem. It's not the big problem. Focusing on the problem is the very, very best way to continue to explore what the problem is. And believe it or not, all of us are reasonably intelligent and able, when we're learning what the problem is, we're all pretty sharp, and we're all going to know what the solution is, or we're going to know a reasonable solution, and we're not going to have to talk over them. We're not going to have to think about what our solution's going to be and not really hear what they're saying. It's just going to come to us. I used to do this the wrong way, and I have learned, it's been very hard and painful, but I've learned that, believe it or not, the solution, the answer to the situation will come to you when you did not expect it, when you provide or do active listening and really hear what they're saying. Use reflective listening. Reflective listening is kind of like repeating back what you heard. When someone tells you something, summarize back to them what you think you heard, because it's the perfect way for them to say, no, that's not what I meant. Or no, that's not what I was saying. It's the perfect way for, if you got it wrong, they'll re-clarify it, they'll retell you, and they'll probably tell you in a new and different way. And when they tell you in a new and different way, you learn a new and different thing. You actually find out what their real issue is. Number 7, save your don't know until you don't know. Please don't say, geez, I don't know. If you really don't know, hold off on saying that until it really matters and it really makes sense. Because if you say you don't know, and then ultimately during the course of the conversation, you suddenly realize you do know, you can't go back and undo that. You've already put your foot in your mouth. So shut up and just listen. If they ask you a question that you absolutely don't know, and it's an important question that you need to get the answer to, then you can tell them, I don't know, but I'm going to find out and I'll get back to you. I'm going to try to get back to you today, but at the very least, I'm going to try to get back to you tomorrow. And then follow through to whatever it is you made the promise of. This is a little trickier. You better have some empathy for acknowledging the client's feelings. You better have respect, and you better have empathy. You know, I do this all the time, and it drives my wife up a wall. She'll say something to me that's maybe a little harsh or a little blunt, and I'll always respond, or I'll often respond, hey, I have feelings, you know. And you know, it gets a rolling of the eyes and a smirk and some snarky comment. But that evolved out of my granddaughter, who is now, she just turned 16. My granddaughter, when we used to say things to her that she didn't particularly like, but that it was necessary to say to her as you know, our daughter telling her daughter, or us telling our granddaughter, if she didn't particularly like it, she would always say, hey, I have feelings, you know, as if, come on, stop it. Don't be such a sensitive person. But the fact of the matter is, when you're working with a client or a prospect, you better demonstrate respect, and you better demonstrate empathy, because that matters to them. Their issue is a big issue to them. It might not be to you, but it is to them. And then this is a really tricky one. Listen without distraction. Don't have distractions. Don't look at your phone. Don't read your email. Don't look at your texting on your phone, and try to make frequent contact. But I want to clarify here, don't stare at them unblinkingly. Don't give them so much eye contact that they feel creepy. Don't give them so much eye contact that they just want to get out of the situation, or look the other way, or say, oh my gosh, what's wrong with that marketer? Try to listen without distractions, and try to have reasonable eye engagement. When you can look them in the eye periodically, it demonstrates several things. It demonstrates you're paying attention. It demonstrates that you're listening, you care. It demonstrates to them that you don't have anything to hide. And that's a big one. And please try to resist giving your solution too soon. There is probably a solution to almost every situation that a client will bring to the table. When you're talking with an agent or a plumber, and they mention some frustration, some irritation, some annoyance, there's probably a solution. A plumber that's struggling to keep good employees. There's a podcast out there that you could direct them to listen to. It's a podcast that I did on Spotify, and it's about keeping good employees, or valuable, or good, credible employees. And tomorrow we're going to put a podcast on there about how to hire good employees. And that could be a podcast that you could refer them to. You're offering them a solution to a possible issue that they have, but don't give them that solution if that's not the solution that they need. It ought to be a joint discussion so that the both of you can learn what their issue or pain point is, so that you can direct them to the right solution. Maven articles, if you're calling on agents or plumbers, or general business, there are hundreds of Maven articles on the Crest library that give you the ability to print out a one-page white paper or document, we call them Maven articles, to address many, many different topics for insurance agents, for plumbers, for property managers, for general business. And I'm talking dozens and dozens and dozens, and actually hundreds. Okay. In number 11, trust yourself that you can bring value. You've got to bring value to every encounter, every engagement that you as a marketer have. If you aren't bringing value to the client, what's the point of going there? You're not, quote unquote, just touching base. You're not just checking in. Those are meaningless. Those are worthless. There's no value in just checking in. When you go to visit a prospect or a client, go there with the idea that you're going to bring value. That value may be in the form of a Maven article. It may be in the form of emailing them first or immediately after you leave a link to Spotify to a podcast that either Bill or I did. And there are hundreds of them on there, and there have been hundreds and hundreds of downloads. There are a lot of really good podcasts. There could be a solution that you could provide immediately, as long as you're actively listening to them and hearing what their real issue is. And then number 12, take responsibility for most of the failed communication. And I know you can immediately say here, well, it's not always my fault. Sometimes they drop the ball. You know what? If they drop the ball, they know it. So take the frickin' blame anyway. Take the blame because they know they dropped the ball, and they'll appreciate you more if you will take the blame. You take the black eye. You're the one that's owning up to the failure, even though it might not always be your failure. When communication gets dropped, when the ball gets dropped, when something doesn't happen that was supposed to happen, I've said it many times, it's not always you. You know, we don't live in a perfect world, and sometimes our clients and prospects, our customers screw up. But when they do, unless it's absolutely not appropriate, in the case of, you know, you're going to court over it, take the blame, take the responsibility, accept the responsibility. They're going to know it. They're going to know that they dropped the ball. So there's no harm done. To really get to know your customer or your prospect, please put yourself in their shoes. Ideally, ask them what are their needs. If it's coming down to a decision of whether they're going to refer you or not, find out what's driving their decision-making process. Find out what their goals are. What are they hoping to achieve or accomplish? Find out what their feelings are. Their feelings can be often disguised. Many, many times we don't really say our feelings. And so we beat around the bush. Talk about them and their feelings. And the more you do that, the more they will open up. And the more they'll open up, the more you can explore them. And the more you explore them with them, the more credibility and confidence they have in you. And the more credibility and the confidence that they have in you, the more likely you are to get referrals. If you know your customer's primary goal is to save time at work and spend more time, or save time from work and spend more time with family, you can probably offer them a great solution one way or the other. And it can be, have the client call you instead of them. There are just so many ways that you can do that. Folks, this has been a relatively short presentation. Often Bill and I will go a full hour. This particular event is only barely a half an hour. So I want to take just a moment and mention to you that on August 1st, 2nd, and 3rd in Orlando, Florida, and you'll all get an email about it, there is an event. It's called the RMS, Restoration Marketing Specialist course. We've repeated it numerous times. We've offered it, 4, 5, 6 times now over the last several years. If you pass the exam after the 3-day class, you get an RMS certification. That's extremely valuable to the marketer. We cover literally everything from A to Z that you would ever expect in that class. And Bill even talks about how the marketer can interact with the other staff and how that other staff perceives the marketer. And those are valuable learning and training events. This class is in Orlando, August 1st, 2nd, and 3rd. We hope you'll be there. We're going to provide the beautiful facility, most of the food, the entertainment, cocktail hours, things like that. I hope you will attend. You better get your reservations in because the class is filling up. If you have a new marketer, please send them to the event. Thank you so much for listening. Don't forget to go to our Crest library, download the Spotify podcasts that we do every other day. See you next time. Bye-bye. Thank you.